Okay, awesome. Thanks. Hey, welcome to Celebrating ELL Student Progress Beyond a Standardized Test. I'm Anita, and I'm a program coordinator here at Literacy Pittsburgh. It's my favorite job I've ever had, and I've had too many to name. So I'm happy to be with you. Thanks to Miguel for co-hosting. I also see Katie's in the session. So you have we are here to share ideas, and I hope that we will all share ideas with each other in this session. I'm thinking that some of you may have chosen this session because your student didn't do well on the Best Plus or the TABE that we gave them. And you're probably going, oh man, my student didn't do well on a standardized test. What do I do? How do I handle that? So that's what we're gonna really focus on today. But if you're here for another reason, I realized as I was going through this that we're going to be talking about a lot of different learning activities that you can do with your student, kind of in the framework of how to use them for assessing, for giving feedback, for celebrating your student's progress. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so today, the next 50 minutes, the questions we're going to answer are, what is assessment? We're going to go through some vocabulary. And the little comment there says, what isn't evaluation? Almost everything you do can be evaluated and in some way to show progress. What is important to assess or celebrate with my student? And how can I show that my student is making progress? And so I've come up with like 9 strategies. If anybody's a Harold and the Purple Crayon fan, all 9 kinds of pie. We have all 9 kinds of assessment ideas for you today. But, and especially since we have a nice small group, I think it would be nice for us to meet each other. I think part of what I love about being part of the volunteer community partners side of Literacy Pittsburgh is that we're building communities, that we're connecting people to each other. And I hope that my tutors, that all of the tutors here find some sort of a community here at Literacy Pittsburgh. We share a lot of things and a lot of ideals together. And so I think it's nice to get to meet each other. So I think that, well, what we'll do is just take a minute to go around the room and I'll call on you. That might be the best way. And just tell us your name and where your student is from and what level your student is. And there will be other opportunities to share. And I do hope that you will share. And I know that Miguel talked about if you don't want to be on camera to keep your camera off. But if you'd like to have your camera on, that's also nice for us to see each other. So let me start with, I'm going to go around my screen. Deb, would you mind just telling us a sentence or two about your student? Remember to unmute.
Yeah. Did you call me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was wrestling some papers. My name's Deb McNavish. I've been a tutor for 2 years. I have currently I have 2 women that are between intermediate and advanced speakers, and they are from Brazil. However, they didn't know each other, and they both live in the same neighborhood. So they've been able to make friends with each other and support each other. So it's been a great experience for them and me.
Very nice. Thank you, Deb.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other. Dana. Oh, remember to unmute.
Yeah, thanks for that. My name is Dana Rabin. I have been tutoring for over 14 years with Literacy Pittsburgh now. And currently I have 3 students, ESL. They're all advanced. And even though they're all advanced, their strengths and weaknesses are quite different. So it needs some improvisation on my part. one is from the Ukraine, one is from India, and one is from Japan. Very different culture. It makes the lessons very interesting.
Very nice. Thank you, Dana. Janet.
Hi, I'm Janet. I've been doing this for almost 2 years. I have two students who are at the top of intermediate, one from Belarus and one from China.
Nice. John.
Did you say John?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm John. I don't have a student yet. I just thought I'd listen in. I expected I would have a student next month, maybe, because I have to do the second ELL class with Roberta, and then. So I just wanted to see. I have been taking a look at some of the resources that are available, and I see no reason why I shouldn't be able to do this.
There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to do this. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yep.
And yeah, you'll jump straight to assessment today. So good. Thanks for joining, John.
You're welcome.
Jess, would you like to share?
Hello.
Oh, hey, Jess, I know you.
Hi, I'm Jess. I've been tutoring for almost 2 years and with the same student from Ukraine. And I think the last time she tested, she was at high intermediate. So we've been kind of working on that. One thing that I guess I would say about her that makes things challenging is she has a full-time job. So, our hours vary from week to week when we can get together. So I'm really excited to find some ways to support her and just kind of keep that momentum going since we're not meeting as much as we used to. So, yeah.
Jess, I was thinking about you and Anna while I was planning the presentation too. So good.
Perfect. Nice to meet you all.
And is it FISA or FISA? If you would like to share. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And there are a couple other things just to let you know I'm going to be sharing that I'm going to have to go back and toggle back and forth in sharing my screen. So let's see. Okay, here's some questions I have for you. Have you ever had a student try really, really hard? I'm assuming yes. Have you ever had a student come to class even when you knew they were very stressed out? Right? Or didn't want to come, or were exhausted, or had something going on, right? Our students are really hard workers, right? Have you ever had a student take an assessment with their coordinator and not do so good? Yeah, it's heartbreaking, right? It's like the worst part of my job is when I have to write that email and say, well, we know they didn't do so good on this assessment, whether it be the best plus or the TABE, but we know you're doing a lot with your student. We know that. We know that you're going over things that aren't measured by a standardized test. We know there's other good things going on. My question to you, if you would like to share, is how did you handle that? What did you say to your student when they come back and they're like, I didn't make a gain on my test. I'm at the same place that I was. And why do you think that happened? Would anybody you can either share in the chat, or if you want to unmute, we are a nice small group. So if you would like to share. Any ideas, any thoughts on that?
This is Debbie. I haven't had that happen yet. I have two students that aren't working, and so they have time to study. One's here with her husband from Brazil, and she's staying home with her children now. The other is just newly retired. So they're working pretty hard, and I can see, and their tests have supported their improving. But this year, One of them went back to Brazil after she got her green card to settle some affairs, and she was out for 3 months. So I'm expecting that the next time she's tested, she's not going to do as well because I can tell she hasn't improved as much as she did in the past intervals. So that might be disappointing to her, but she's mature and reasonable, and she understands that that absence limited her, but was necessary. So,
Yeah.
but I would imagine she's going to feel badly when she sees that result.
And now you can be prepared for that, right?
Right.
You're like really thinking proactively. That's amazing, Deb.
Right.
I have a little bit of a question about this. For the first time in 2 years, I had a student not really progress. And from what I understand, she was tested on reading, and our instruction isn't really focused on reading. Because I know
Yeah.
she's speaking so much better that I was shocked.
Yeah, that is a limitation in our program. When students have been taking the Best Plus, which is a listening and speaking test, and then they score too high on it, we then have to switch to the reading test to be able to follow protocols that are required by the state funding. And we understand, and this is part of it, we understand that you're still working on speaking. Your student still has some speaking goals, and you're not working so much on the reading. And so this is a time where some of these other things that I'm going to show you today are really going to come in handy so that you can say to your student, I know we're not really working on reading so much, but let me show you the progress that you've made in your speaking and listening through these activities and through this documentation that we've been keeping. Thank you, Janet. That worked perfectly into what we're going to do. Good. Super. Again, our agenda for today, the questions we're going to answer are: what is assessment? We're going to go through some assessment vocabulary, just to get a little nerdy with you for a little bit. Then we'll have a little discussion again about what is important to celebrate with your student. And finally, or the bulk of what we'll do, are all nine strategies to show your student that they are making progress. Okay, what is assessment? Hello, Rich. Nice to have you join us.
I thought I would show my face.
Wonderful. I love to see.
Good morning.
Assessment is the process of gathering and using data to evaluate student learning and progress. And we're going to focus today on that gathering, right? We're going to gather, we can gather data, we can gather qualitative information, examples, lots of examples of what it is that your student is doing. We're going to talk about 4 different types of assessment. So this is just to get a little nerdy with you. It's not, I don't think you need to know this, but it's nice to know when talking about assessment. We're going to talk about summative versus formative assessment, and then also formal versus informal assessment. And you will see some similarities and overlaps between, like, particularly summative and formative, and summative and formal, and then the formative and informal. Summative assessment is your big final exam. It's given at the end of a unit when you want to sum up what the student has learned and then determine a grade. So this is like, you've given them all the information you can give them. You've done all of the practice you can do. And now we want to know in the final end what it is that they know. And we're going to give a grade. And so this is our Best Plus. This is the TABE test. These are those standardized tests that we give that students get in school, maybe like a final exam. Versus formative assessment, which is more done in like dribs and drabs to kind of tell where your student is and guides your instruction, or forms or informs your instruction. So it's used to determine what remediation is needed for a student to master the content, skill, or objective. And that's really what we're interested in, right? Like, we want our students to constantly be making improvements, and we want to know how we can help them make those improvements. So we're going to be doing a lot of this formative assessments, things like drills, practice tests. And we're going to talk about exit tickets in a little bit as well, if you don't know what that is. So that's summative and formative. We also have, a couple of other terms, formal and informal. So formal is something that you have pre-planned. It has a measurement involved with it. It's probably going to have some sort of a number or a letter grade at the end of it, much like summative. So it's, our best plus test. It could be something like a rubric, though, as well. So maybe they're working on a project and you want to give them a score so that they know how they're doing. That would be formal. What we're really talking about, everything that we're going to talk about for the rest of today, is informal assessment. It's non-standardized. We want to, gosh, I can't see my whole, wait a second. We want to have, to understand where our students' knowledge and understanding is so that we can use that throughout our teaching and their learning. So informal can be as informal as an observation. I've noticed that I'm paying attention to what my student can and does do. It can be some checklists if you want to get a little more data in there. It includes the drills, the practice tests, the exit tickets. It's embedded in a lot of the learning activities that you do with your student already. But we're going to take that informal and make it a little more tangible so that you have that feedback ready to give your student to show them that they are making progress. We want something they can really see. Okay, so like Deb is here. She knows my student's probably not going to make it a gain. I want to be ready and have things on the back burner to show her that she is making gains, even if it's not seen on that test. Okay, do we have time? We have until 10:25 and it is, I'm gonna give you a little test. I'm gonna put it in our chat. Oh, you can't see the chat. They can't see the chat, right, Miguel? So I'm just going to click on this and I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to, and we'll do it together. Let me share again. There it is. Okay. I put together this, does anybody play the New York Times Connections game? It's my favorite game. I play it every single day. My husband plays it. We compare our notes. But there's a website you can go to where you can make your own connections games. I learned about this from another tutor. And here I put one together for the 4 different types of assessment. So we have, there's 16 words on the board. You have to put 4 words in 4 different categories. So there's summative assessment, formative assessment, formal, and informal. And I wanted this to kind of be a quick little check-in, a quick assessment to see how well you learned your 4 new vocabulary words for the day. So I don't know if you want to take a look at that. If anybody wants to shout out some answers. I know we're running low on time, so I don't want to belabor it, but if we think about summative assessment, it's at the end. It is, I think it's measured. It's the best plus. It's graded. Let's see if I got it right. Oh, I was 1 away. It's at the end. It's a final. It's graded. It's a best plus. I think that's it.
Okay.
If we did formative, I think we said a check. No, we didn't say checklist. We said
Drills.
drill. You think I know it.
Practice.
Practice for mastery. And what is it? Formative. It's remediation.
Yeah.
For formal, it's rubric. It's pre-planned. It's measures and it's often formative. What did I get wrong? Okay, let's do. It's hard even for me, okay? Oh, this is often formative, a checklist, observation, and non-standardized is informal. And then formal is the rubric, often summative, measures, and pre-plan. That's what I missed. Anyway, that's just a fun way I thought it could be to talk about assessment. It's something you could do with your students, right? Especially with some new vocabulary words maybe, or some content that you're going over. Okay. Why is it important to assess or celebrate with your student? Well, what skills does your student want to improve? What is important to assess? What skills does your student want to improve, right? This is when you have that conversation with your student. What do you want to make better? What parts of your speaking do you want to improve? What would you consider to be successful in speaking English? What is it that you need to do? That's what we want to assess, and that's what we want to celebrate with our students. So having that conversation and asking your student. My questions for you are, what are some ways that you can think to assess your students' successes? Or what have you celebrated with your student? What things have you already tried? Anybody want to share anything that they've already done with their student?
Well, let me try. Okay.
Awesome.
I had one student, an advanced learner from Mexico. He was a cook he is a cook in a Mexican restaurant. And he aspired to someday own his own restaurant. So in the classes that we had, I would always infuse business terminology and various conversational aspects that he can relate to his boss. Okay. And also just learn general principles like inventory. What is inventory? Okay. What is a balance sheet? So things like that were incorporated into the lessons.
Right
on. At the same time, as part of his goals and action plan that we put together, we had specific milestones of how he was going to achieve these goals with dates. Okay. So first, he wanted to become face-to-face with customers by becoming a waiter, and then ultimately become a cashier. Okay. And then the assistant manager, and he worked his way up. Okay. He didn't have time to really go through all that with me because he was working like 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. It's really a sad story, which I don't necessarily need to get into. But he would read business books in Spanish. He was an avid reader. And I started to strongly recommend he buy English business books of the same ones he was reading in Spanish, okay, as well as new ones that I introduced to him. Okay. So we would be discussing those books, the vocabulary in those books, and some of the concepts and business cases that came out of that. Well, he ultimately started to take on the responsibility of inventory management for the restaurant. He started to, first he was a backup to be a waiter, but then when they found how good he was with the customers, they made him a waiter full time. And he became very friendly with the manager of the restaurant. It was at that point where he had to leave our lessons. So I never really got to see where he was going to go from there. But what it did, it set up a pattern for me to set up a program that whichever advanced students I worked with, it became very, very important to find out what their aspirations were and make sure I can craft reading, writing, and learning exercises that were centric to where their interests were, because that kept them motivated. Okay.
Right on, Rich. That is right on. And all of this, like you're talking about inventory and um, bookkeeping, and those are things that do not come up in the Best Plus. Those are things that we are not. Those are not standardized questions that we ask. And so all of that work that you do, that you know he's done, that he's improved upon, would not be caught in our assessments. And so it's wonderful that you keep track of all those things so that you can bring those to his attention and say, but look at all these other things you've learned.
Anita, just to let you know, I had shared with Leah Patterson, and I believe she shared it with others. I put together a PowerPoint presentation on this methodology, and it shows 2 success stories, one on this gentleman and one on a more recent student I had.
Super.
Okay.
I'll ask her to see that.
Great. Thank you.
So we're going to talk about how can we show that our students are making progress? These are all 9 things that we're going to go over. We're going to talk about real life experiences, role play, language experience activity, dialogue journals, student created quizzes, student checklists, exit tickets, comprehension strategies, and then really this kind of catch-all called portfolio. Because I always feel like whenever they say, how am I going to show my student that they're making progress? People say, keep a portfolio. And I go, but what am I supposed to put in the portfolio? What do you mean by portfolio? Well, all of these other things are what you put into your portfolio so that you have lots of examples, varied examples, to show your student that they are making progress. So let's talk about, I kind of put these in what I thought was from most important to least important, although, we'll see. The first ones definitely take a little longer to explain, and they're quicker at the end. But the whole reason they're here, the whole reason that they're coming to Literacy Pittsburgh is so that they can communicate in the real world, right? So we want to show them that they are making progress in their real life goals. So to go on field trips. And what are some field trips that maybe that you could take them on? Anybody want to shout one out?
Yeah, I will. My 2 students have artistic ability, and I've been encouraging them to go to local art shows and to join local art leagues. So the group would be smaller and they could speak with people and not, they're always worried that they can't understand people because American speakers, English speakers, because we talk too fast. So I thought a smaller group with something in common would be good for them. And it took a long time because neither of them are very assertive, but just 2 weeks ago, we went to the Galleria in Mount Lebanon, had a local art show, and both students went. One went with me, and she did make contact with one of the groups, and she took some information to join. So that was it. I thought that was going to happen a lot sooner than it did. Like I thought last year it would have happened. So I've also asked them to go to the local farmers markets because they both like to cook. And I thought that would be a good way to practice their English, but they're so afraid of people's reactions to them or being confused that they've been reluctant to do that. They did that this year.
Good. So we have art galleries, we have farmers market. Those were both not on my list. So that's great. We got coffee shops, supermarkets, the bank, the post office, a park, Target. I was thinking of you, Jess. Their workplace, bus rides, right? All these different things. Our students need to be able to experience them and to have you with them, right, Deb, to make them feel more
Yeah.
comfortable so that they're not scared of talking to these Americans who speak so quickly is a great thing.
Right. We've also gone to, in a period of time, we went to Panera, where I had to help someone order. And then a couple weeks ago, I met my student there again for coffee, and she ordered without me. So that was an
Nice.
improvement.
Nice, nice. So what can we observe from a field trip? What can we celebrate, right?
Oh,
Especially over time. We
Mhm.
can see last time we came, you couldn't do this. I had to help you. This time you came and did it all by yourself.
Right.
Yeah. We can see things like we can comment on how their confidence is improving, how they're just getting their needs met, right?
Right.
You were able to get what you wanted to get, what you needed. We can look for their cultural appropriateness, right? Are they catching on to American ways of doing things so that they feel like they're fitting in more? All of these activities that I'm showing you, there are ways that we want to celebrate with our students, but we might as well also use them to guide our future lessons and our instruction at the same time. They're kind of linked together, right? Let's not ignore that. So, if you go with your students on these field trips, you can see like what vocabulary needs they may still have, what grammar they may need, what pronunciation may have held them back, what cultural cues they may have missed. So at the same time that we're gathering information about what to celebrate, also thinking about how can we help them continue to make progress. I have a cute little thing right here that we're going to watch. It's a YouTube short, and it's just one guy, and he's playing both parts. He's playing the cafe owner or the cafe worker and the customer who is an English language learner. And so we're going to watch this. It's real short. And then think about, well, what could you celebrate? If this were your student ordering something at a coffee shop, how would you celebrate with them and say, hey, you did a great job? Now let me stop sharing. And then I have to share again. Oh, and I have to make sure that I share sound. And I have to find it. Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'd have one piece of banoffee pie, please. Okay, so you'd have one slice of banoffee pie? Yeah, that's right. And would you like to order a drink to go with that? Sure, can I have a medium-sized toffee nut latte? Do you mean a medium-sized toffee nut latte? Yes, toffee nut latte. All for dine-in? Great, so you'd have one slice of banoffee pie and one medium-sized toffee nut latte for here. Is this correct? Yes, perfect. Thank you. Hi, what can I get?
Okay, did you catch that? It was really, really quick. What did he do well? This, pretend person. What did he do well on his field trip? If you were his tutor watching.
He was bold enough to do it himself.
Yeah, right? He did it and he got what he needed. And did we see some things that we also need to work on? Still pronunciation, right?
Yes.
The worker still had to kind of clarify, make sure he was going to get what he needed. But there was lots to celebrate and lots of fun. It's a great thing to do with your student. Okay, let me share again. We'll get to point number 2. Hold on one second. I think I'm learning this. Okay. So penultimate thing that you want to celebrate are real life experiences, how they are better able to navigate this new country that they're in. That's what it's all about. I'm actually going to go, well, real life experiences are super, super important. Number 2 is role play. And you would actually do this before you would go on the field trip, right? You want to practice with your student so that they feel confident when they go out to do their real life, their real field trip. You can just have a simple role play where you play one part, they play another part, and you can ad lib and see where it goes. You could pre-write a little script known as a dialogue to give them the specific language that they're probably going to hear in that situation. But definitely to practice, go over vocabulary, go over the things that they're going to need for their field trip. And again, if you keep kind of a tally on this, maybe you video them, maybe you record them, and then you can show them over time. Again, this isn't, this is something we got to think about ahead of time, and show them how they are progressing and how their role plays are getting better and their communication is getting better. Number 3, language experience activity. Every presentation I do includes language experience activity. So it's something that has been around for decades. It is an activity that I think is underused by tutors, but packs a really big punch. So if you haven't done, I'm going to give you a quick little overview of what language experience activity is. If you haven't heard of it before, if you need a refresher, or if you need a challenge to try to bring it into your lessons. This is a reading/speaking activity. So what it is first, the tutor elicits the student's working vocabulary and English language skills. So you ask your student to tell you something, and this then will become the text. So you can ask them to tell you about their weekend. You can ask them about their favorite movie, about their favorite recipe, about what their kids did at Halloween. And you take whatever they give you and you write it down word for word. And then that becomes your reading text. Their speaking language becomes your reading text. And you're going to use that paragraph that they just told you to build upon what they already know.
Right.
Is this new to you, Deb?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to try it.
Well, we're not done. I have quite a bit to talk about. So this is the process, is you write their words down, and it's short. It's like 5 to 7 sentences. You may find that you want to record it. There's all kinds of transcription apps that can help you get those words down on paper, because, people speak. Find out in a minute. And then you're going to make a nice clean copy of it. And maybe you come back the next lesson with this reading text. And you're going to use it the same way you would do any reading text. But hopefully this one is a little bit more engaging for them since it is their language. You're going to pull out any vocabulary words that they may not know. And they may know most of them, right? But we want to make sure that the words that they're speaking, they're also able to read. So we also may want to pull out some spelling words for them. And you're going to read it together and help them with their pronunciation of it, help them with their fluency, ask some comprehension questions. These should be pretty easy for them. It's their story. But isn't it nice to be successful at something, right? We can have something a little easy every once in a while. And then ask them if there's anything they would like to change. And they're probably going to, like, when they go back and look at it, they may go, ooh, I didn't mean to say that, or I could say that much better. I got my grammar mixed up. This is the time they can make those changes. And again, while we're going to celebrate their progress over time using an LEA, we're also going to notice any errors they made so that will fuel our future lessons. Right? We're still going to get information so that we can help them more. So I have a little clip here of Wilson. He's going to talk to us about about why students should come to class and improve their English, particularly through this Literacy Council, which is not Literacy Pittsburgh, but another one, Leicestershire. And while we're going to listen to it, I mean, I could challenge you to try to write what he's saying like you would with your student. He's speaking too quickly. There's too much. You can try, but you're going to lose him right away. So I just want you to listen to him for a minute, and then I'll show you the transcript that I made off of what he said. Okay. So again, I need to stop sharing and then share again. And find it. Here's Wilson.
Hi, I'm Wilson from Go Learning, one of the students of Go Learning in Leicestershire. All this course really helps to those people that needs one or to improve their skills, like in mathematics, in ICT, and in writing skills or reading skills, which is very important nowadays to hunting job. And yeah, it is quite hard and it takes times for you, but if you are determined enough to gain of those skills to make your life improve and augment, so you need to uplift your skills. And with this program of the Leicester Government Council, this is the best opportunity that you will get.
Okay. So, oh, wait a second. I don't want that. Wait a second. Okay, sorry about that. Let me share my screen again. So he spoke pretty quickly, right? I bet you didn't catch all that. So I went ahead and made the transcription. You would then write down what he said and bring it back to your next lesson and let him read through it. And he may come up with things like, oh, I want to say it this way to make it a little clearer. I want to do this, and let him make those corrections, right? And then you want to pull out any words that he may not know in reading them. Things like maybe determined, there's a quite hard. So making sure that he's able to read those words, maybe even spell those words, ask him some questions, and then celebrate with him. And I am running out of time. We have so much more that, so I'm just going to talk about, essentially we want to, this man gave a whole motivational speech about why people should continue their learning at the Literacy Council. I mean, that can be very motivating to someone else. And then we've also gained some fuel of some pronunciation things that we could probably work on. I think if we're able to kind of shorten his sentences and make some short, simple sentences, we would be able to understand him better. But you can keep a recording of this. You can keep the recording, the video, if you make a video or audio recording, keep the written part, pull them out every once in a while and show him. And he's going to see his progress over time, how he becomes a more motivating speaker, how he becomes a clearer speaker. And that again should be really motivating to keep him going as well. Right? Idea number 4 that you can try. Again, these are like learning activities that we do, that we are now thinking about, how can I keep this data and this information, gather this information to show my student how they're improving. This is a dialogue journal. So this is a written conversation between the tutor and the student. Maybe this is something you do between lessons, maybe via email or texting even. This between Elizabeth and her teacher, Elizabeth is working on not using her Google Translator, but respecting herself and I can't think of the word, but making sure that she trusts herself to come up with her language. They've also been working on simple present and past verbs, past, present, and past tense verbs. So if we take a look at this, right? Sammy, you can read that on your own. It is clear that Elizabeth did not use her Google Translate, right? She came up with this on her own, and we're going to celebrate that with her. We're going to say, hey, Elizabeth, I can tell you didn't use Google Translate, and I understand what you're talking about. So good job. They're still working on their present and past tense verbs, but it's getting better, right? She does, especially in her first lines of the text. Sammy is better. He take medicine. We're getting there. We are well. We had a good weekend. So yeah. In their second one, she talks about he born, he watch. We're still working. We're still working on that. But I wanted to also point out that the teacher subtly makes some corrections. So in the teacher's final response, you'll see that she models was born, right? So that's a little harder. That's a harder grammar point for Elizabeth, but it's something that the tutor can also, that Elizabeth is trying to use it and the teacher can model the correct way of using it. Okay, and again, you can keep these dialogues over time to show your student how they are improving. Okay, I know we only have 5 minutes and 4 more strategies, but they are a little quicker. Here's one, student-created quizzes. So the best way to learn something is to teach it, right? So this is, for example, I pulled an article off of newsforyouonline.com. And this is an article about what to do with your pumpkins after Halloween. And if you've never been on this site, it's fantastic. And they have audio and the written text to go with it, written article, and have your student read through it or listen, whichever, and come up with questions to quiz you about it, right? They can ask questions on grammar, vocabulary, comprehension, discussion questions. And again, keep these over time so that they can see. But the real beauty of this is, voila, they have now planned your lesson. So I love it when we can put some of that onus on the student as well for their lessons. Here's one, a student checklist. So maybe you want a little more tangible data rather than just examples. This is just an example of a checklist that you could make. I pulled a sample out of Standout. So this was from Standout 3. And this is the table of contents for Unit 3. These are the skills that you'll be going over. And you'll see things like read a menu, make a shopping list, the grammar questions with can, using some or any, count and noun count verbs, some vocabulary words, some pronunciation to work on. And I made a checklist, that I want my student to form 5 questions using can. Maybe that's in one lesson, or maybe that's throughout the whole unit. And as you see that they do it, give them a tally mark. Or to make a shopping list. If once they do it, give them a check mark. And then you can say, hey, you have done this. We can see that you have done this independently on your own, this skill 5 times. I think you probably got it. But it's just a way to, if you feel like more data would help you and your student, this is something else you could try. And again, don't recreate the wheel, right? I got these ideas straight from the textbook. An exit ticket. So this would be something you might want to do at the end of your lesson and to see if they got the objectives from your lesson. My goodness, we could do another whole session on how to write an objective, but here are 2 examples of some exit tickets. Maybe you just have a generic one that you use every lesson. Tell me 3 things you learned today, or tell me 3 questions you have. And then don't leave the breakout room yet, guys. We got just a little bit more to do. Or you can make a more tailored exit ticket where, and again, I based this one off of the checklist from the previous screen. Name a food group, fill in the sentence with much or many, and then some pronunciation practice with you. Okay. And again, you could keep these over time and show your students how they're improving. Or it's just a check-in for you as well. Did they get what we're doing, or do we need to do it again? The last big piece of how do I show my student that they're progressing is to do lots of observation, right? See how they're doing, but you got to be ready to give them feedback on that. So here are just some comprehension strategies.